Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Hello, and thank you for listening. Welcome back. Another edition of Talking Books and Stuffs podcast. And today we have with us from Eastern Ontario, we'll say, down by the Windsor area, we have Rita Miceli. And Rita is here to talk about her new book. So, Rita, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Dennis. I appreciate it.
The name of the book is
Giaci and Me.
Giaci and Me. Yep.
Yeah, a mother's journey of loving and raising an autistic child.
So let's get into some definitions to get started. So is there an easy way to describe autism?
Well, it's a developmental disorder, and it affects people differently. When you know one person with autism, you only know one person because they're all so different.
Right.
And it can affect them in social communication, language, behaviors. So there's a gamut of things that can make it very complex.
And so your journey with Giaci and autism, when did that begin?
I started noticing some changes in him before the age of 2. And I have 4 children. My oldest is 18 months older than Giaci. And then when I was pregnant with the twins who came after him, I noticed there were changes happening in him. Things like a lack of communication. So, I tell you that I was, having the reason I say this is because I have, you're watching your other kids and seeing the differences. So I noticed, like with my older, she was talking so much, and then with him, it wasn't happening. And then I noticed, some kind of behaviors of repetitive things he was doing, and the hand flapping. But at the time, I knew nothing of autism. I didn't know anything. And then we actually got an official diagnosis by the age of 3.
So how do they diagnose? They, meaning the experts, I guess, diagnose this situation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it always looks different for every person, for every family. But for us in our journey, I went from family doctor to pediatricians, in the medical profession that at the time would say, when he's got something to say, he'll say it, just come back in a year, because physically he was so strong, and there was nothing to be alarmed about, but it was the social and the communication that were lacking. And that was the response I was getting early on. And my son is 28 now, and I still hear families that are still experiencing that kind of thing, which just breaks my heart. Because it's been so long, and you would hope that everybody would be on board by now to say, okay, you have to take the next step, which is to go to a psychologist to get a diagnosis. And they do a number of tests as far as seeing where the child is in their development. And then that's where we got the diagnosis.
And just a reminder, we're talking with Rita Miceli. Giaci and Me is the book, and she is the 2024 Gold Nonfiction Book Award winner by the Nonfiction Authors Association. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So your reaction when the final, I'll call it diagnosis, I don't know what other term I should use, when it was sort of confirmed, how did you react?
Oh gosh, there's a range of emotions that I remember experiencing, and it's denial, just sheer devastation, confusion, sadness, fear. Like I said, I just a gamut of mixed emotions, and the biggest thing is, just that fear of the unknown and what's going to happen now, or how can I help my child? Just that gazillion questions that race through your mind when you hear those words. And to be honest, it took me a while. I remember feeling like I'd just been tasered, my body was stunned, and I had to kind of just sit in that mode and in that state of, frozenness for a while to kind of just digest what was happening, and then you kind of, after you feel like you've fallen, you get up and you say, okay, this is what it is. This is what we got to do. Let's do what we got to do. And, early intervention is key, helping your child as early as you possibly can, and getting the interventions that are important for their future is really what kept resonating in my head from everything I would read.
So that must have obviously been a tough time, but how do other family members, especially in your household, how did they react?
Yeah, well, my 4 children are all very close in age. So, like, I had 4 kids in 3.5 years. So I can't say that his sisters, because he has 3 sisters, understood at that time what was happening. To them, Giaci was just Giaci, and they just adore and love him, and they have continued to be there for him in every way possible. This is all they know. They know nothing else. And other than loving him and accepting him the way he is, this is how our family rolls. And my husband handled, the diagnosis differently than I. At first, he was in a denial, saying, "Oh, no, that's so he actually thought I was kind of overreacting to all the things that I was noticing." And then when we got the diagnosis, my husband was like, "Okay, this is what it is," and he kind of jumped in the way that he felt he needed to, which was as the breadwinner, predominantly the main breadwinner. He jumped into trying to raise, work and make the money that was needed to pay for all the therapies that we needed for our son. And that was his, way of coping and helping his son the best he could in our family. So
the book is Giaci and Me, a mother's journey of loving and raising an autistic child. Now, I don't want to sound mean or cruel, but were there ever thoughts of kind of like, oh, well, can we just put him in an institution or something like that and make it a whole lot easier for everybody?
No, I mean, at
you know
one
what I'm
time,
trying to say here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Dennis, to be honest, years ago, that was the solution, years and years ago. I also teach at the college, St. Clair College here in Windsor, and I teach in the autism and behavioral graduate program. One of the classes that I teach actually talks about all the where we were and how far we've come as far as even institution-wise in Ontario. So at one time, that was the answer, and that's why you didn't see many cases in schools. You didn't know, I didn't know what autism looked like. I had nobody to look at to say, oh, this is what he may become, or there was nothing, because they were always put in institutions. But Ontario has grown, and as far as pulled away from closing all those institutions all those years ago, and now you see people with disabilities in the community being integrated in activities and whatnot. So in answer to your question, that never ever entered my mind, because I can't live without him. Right. He is the core of our family. What he has taught us, me, my husband, my 3 daughters, I could have never taught that. The compassion, the strength that he gives us, the learning how to advocate for others, and just that drive of doing better in the time that we have here on earth. He has given us all that, and the unconditional love that we learned from him, because he's just that lovable. And I'm not sure if you know this or not, but my daughter started a TikTok, and Giaci's TikTok just went viral during COVID, and he now has over 600,000 followers. And the biggest thing is how people are, just fall in love with him. And this is a young man that really has limited language, but the smile and the way he interacts, it may be different than you and I, but it's very captivating and contagious, and it perks many people's interest. Like, people from all over the world have reached out wanting to know more of how Giaci lives as an adult.
Ah, good. Well, what kind of made me think of this was the other night, last night actually, we were watching a movie set in a, I'll say a mental institution in the early 50s, and I
Yeah,
kind of remarked, I said, I wonder how many of these people were actually just well, autistic or Down
yeah,
syndrome, and nobody knew
yeah,
what to do with them, so off they go instead
yeah,
of
yeah,
being able.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Outcast.
that's
Yeah.
kind of what made me think of this. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, you're right though, Dennis. That was the way. And as his mother, that was one of my biggest fears was how was he going to be accepted in this community or in his world, you know? That's such a paralyzing fear that makes you fearful of putting them out there. Even with the TikTok, like I was petrified that my daughters were doing that because I didn't know how people would react. And then to my, beautiful surprise, he's been so well received and just, he's got such a following, which is a testament to how, we have to release that fear and let
right.
people see what beauty there is in what and how we live with him, and how he is.
And the book is Giaci and Me by Rita Miceli. So why this book and why now? Because you've had this
Oh,
experience for a while, so
yes. Very good question, Dennis. Years ago, when we were just starting to hear, the word autism and what we were dealing with, I journaled a lot. I wrote a lot of things down, and initially I wrote down, okay, Judgy's doing this or he's not doing this, and this is to kind of track where we were at, because oftentimes, like, I'm an educator. I've taught in the elementary level for over 30 years and just retired. So after all those years of journaling, what was happening and how I was feeling through those times, it really helped me. And since retiring, I kind of put it all together. And also in seeing the response from the TikTok, I saw that there were so many mothers out there and parents that really wanted to hear more about how we got to where we were. They were starting their journey. And even for me, there was no book that I could find that would tell me what the future could look like. So that's why I just kind of put all the journaling and all my thoughts and all of our experiences together into a book, and here we are. And I'm hoping it'll help at least one other person out there that may need to hear what is possible.
I was just going to ask that. What do you hope the book will do?
Yeah, and that is my biggest hope for the book, is that it will help someone in their journey, because oftentimes when you're experiencing all of those emotions and those fears, you feel so alone. I remember feeling so alone because I didn't have the courage to tell anyone what was happening for the longest time, because I was afraid of how people would respond, or how maybe I felt like a failure as a mother at times because I couldn't cure my son of this disorder. I couldn't bring him into my world fully. He always chose to live in his own world, and it was devastating for me. It just made me feel like such a failure, and again, feeling of being alone. So I hope the book will show others that they're not alone. Those feelings are real. The feeling of mourning. Like I remember yearly mourning on my son's birthday, a time that I should be happy.
Yeah.
Dennis, I was sad because my son was physically that, next age, but mentally he wasn't. And it was so hard for me to celebrate because I was so torn. And I know that I'm not the only one that feels that way. We're joined by, the love of our children and that desire for wanting more and, the experience. So I really, really hope that it does do that.
And when you were putting the book together, having lived this story, as it were, day to day, did you learn anything different when you finally put it all down on paper?
Oh gosh. Yeah, like, that when you're seeing the journey, like at the end of the journey, and you're looking back, you see how far you've come. So it really, really opened my eyes to, you know what, Rita, there were so many times where I felt I had just fallen and I couldn't get up. And you reach those real lows, and you do gain the strength, and you do get up and you do move on. It's just, when you're in it, you don't see what you can be or what you can do. So looking back and seeing, at the end of it, it really made me feel good. I mean, it was really hard though, Dennis. While I was typing away, I'd be crying my eyes out at times, just digging deep and remembering certain things that were very traumatic and very difficult at that time. It just brought it all back up again. But I felt it was so important to do that and to share it. As hard as it was for me to just open up our world, and like I often say, like it was like I cut myself open and revealed some really deep feelings. But it is important to do, and like I said, it has a purpose for me.
And is there some autism myths out there that we should explode?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the one that I'm always annoyed by, I'll be honest, is that people say they can cure your child when there's no cure for autism. Oh. Do people with autism improve? And some can improve to a level where you wouldn't, perhaps the average person wouldn't know they're autistic because they're so verbal or whatnot. Yes, but cure, there is no cure. It's a lifelong disorder. So that is number one for me. Number two would probably be that the autistic community, autistic persons are not intelligent when they're so very intelligent. There's so many that are highly intelligent. It's just their brains are wired differently. They respond differently to the way they live and in their environment. So I think those are probably, to me, the biggest myths.
And before we go, Rita, give us you have a website, I understand. Can we
Yes.
have the details for that?
Yes, absolutely. It's www.giaci.ca.
And the TikTok, how do you find that?
Yeah. Also, you go to Giaci Miceli. So Giaci, M as in Mary, I-C as in Charles, E-L as in Larry, I.
So there you go. That's the story of Giaci and Rita Miceli. And one quick question before you: How did you find a publisher for this? How did that all come about?
Well, I was I was given some offers, and there was one that I connected with, which is Pownell Street Press, and I spoke with Genevieve and Mo, who are the editors and publishers, and we connected so well that I just felt this a great relationship that seemed to be started in our conversations. And also one of them shared that they have a child on the spectrum as well, and I thought, this is the publisher for me. So I was very, very blessed to be able to work with them. They've been phenomenal. So grateful.
A big shout out to Pownell Street Press. Yes. And and a big shout out to you for sharing your story with us today. So yes, thank you very much for talking with us.
Well, thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.